Good morning, wrestling fans, and welcome to PWR today, Thursday morning, February 10th, 2022. The man they call Meathead, the M.O.T.S, Matthew on the streets, Matthew Thomas. Hey, Matthew, spring training is starting soon. Pitchers and catchers are getting ready to report. How's things in the Denver area? Are you thinking snow or are you thinking baseball?
You can actually think some of both. I mean, we've had snow outs before, so that's it's very possible. You can multitask here. You can think multiple things at the same time.
So you're saying that you've had baseball games canceled due to snow?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
well, that used to be a normal thing in Milwaukee, but
in Doc, you got a little roof now, don't you?
Well, since 2001. So I mean, we're talking 21 years. And that used to be a thing at opening day where you'd see the snowflakes fly, but people would still come out 56,000 strong. We've got a roof. So, in Milwaukee, we smartened up a little bit.
Yeah, we don't need them roof things over here. We got no roof the way baseball was meant to be played in real grass.
We have real grass too.
And we got hot dog. We got not just hot dogs. We got Rocky dogs over here.
Okay, well, the bumps on the outside of your, wieners or hot dogs are something you might want to see a doctor for. No, Matthew, the Miller Park / American Family Field is an outdoor stadium just with a cover on it. It's meant to be an outdoor stadium, so the roof is open more than it's closed. If there's any chance of inclement weather, then it's closed. It only takes 20 minutes to close, but that's because Milwaukee Brewers are a state team. So, if you plan a trip to go see the Brewers and you drove 3 hours and all of a sudden get rained out, I mean, we can, consider the fans' feelings.
Well, it's very considerate of you. That's a nice, it's taken me more than 20 minutes sometimes to close my car door. So that's actually really impressive with that technology.
Well, that was back in the day when you're doing the roll-up thing there.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Speaking of doing the roll-up, when you're done with your shirts and you roll them up, what shirts did you roll them up from? Where did they come from?
They came from the Collar and Elbow warehouse that you can peruse at collarandelbowbrand.com. It's like having a warehouse, access to the warehouse on your screen, whether that be your phone or your laptop or your tablet or, whatever you're viewing the Collar and Elbow website on. If you enter promo code Linda K, LINDAKAY, that saves you 10%. And I mean, think about it, if you have a big order, that's a big chunk of change. If you're ordering from Collar and Elbow, I mean, I know there's some people out there who order on a weekly basis, if not a daily basis. Think about how much money that's going to save you in a year.
Well, 10% per order. So, I mean, if you're ordering on a daily basis, you might want to, go ahead and get those orders in. All right. collarandelbowbrand.com. Matthew, we don't have a ton of news to talk about other than what happened in AEW Dynamite last night. That is where the news exists. We had built up towards the day. We were excited all day long, wondering who was going to be the person who debuted the major name, the Forbidden Door opening. And we had prophesized. We had told you, beware of the double swerve. Beware of the okie doke. Well, there was two names that debuted last night. We'll go match by match in a little bit, but let's talk the names. Earlier in the program, while they're outside talking to Roppongi Vice, the Young Bucks are face-to-face with Roppongi Vice, and their friend shows up in a leather jacket. And boy, oh boy, that looks like a Bullet Club jacket. Ladies and gentlemen, Jay White is All Elite.
And I think there was a little prediction made yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. There's a good chance that it's somebody from New Japan or somebody that the layperson might scratch their head a little bit. Now, I think that I don't know if that quite fits the bill here. I'm sure it will be the case for some people. But, yeah, Jay White premiering. We have seen him in Impact, and I get what they were going for there, especially with having the big announcement come, right after there. I will say for the importance of it, for it feeling big, I think you're running a little bit of a risk premiering him in a backstage vignette.
Well, they kind of undersold who he was. Jay White is literally right now the head of the Bullet Club. And, they brought up instantly his heat with Kenny Omega.
Yeah. I think it's going to make for some very interesting storytelling. And that's
today, though? Will it make interesting storytelling today or 6 months from now?
Down the road, you planted seeds, and where do you get in the meantime? And that's the thing. You've got to get something out of it in the meantime. In these upcoming weeks, if not months.
Okay. let's talk about the other surprise. Like I said, you and I both believed that it was going to be opening the show. It did not, and we'll get to that in just a little bit. But Isaiah Cassidy's match for the qualifier for the Face of the Revolution, the golden donut that hangs over the ring, the Face of the Revolution match, the qualifier, you will bask in his glory. Matthew Thomas, we believed it was Jeff Hardy, but I told you yesterday morning, I want Keith Lee. Tony Khan listens. Not only does he listen to the fan, he listens to the man they call Meathead. Keith Lee is all elite.
I think with the names that had been thrown out there, this was probably not the biggest shock, but I think the best case scenario for somebody who is going to most likely move his career forward and move that company forward. A big, big player. Because here's the thing, Jeff Hardy would have been interesting, but
and you would have felt warm and cozy under a nice warm blanket, knowing that exactly what it is.
Where does that get us? And I will tell you, I think they did a great job of playing that up, because when the announcement was made, Matt Hardy was still in the ring, and you could just almost see it play itself.
Matt Hardy was playing to the crowd and put his fingers to his mouth.
Mm-hmm. Him shocked, and seeing Jeff standing across from Matt. But my goodness, as far as where we're at, night, 12 hours or so removed, whenever your ears hear this, I think that when the dust settles on this and we get away from the shock value, okay, this is a big deal for AEW, and it's a big deal for a very, very talented individual to realize his potential. I think that it is the Keith Lee is the guy. And here's the thing too, going back to several months ago with AEW, when they have been criticized with their representation as far as top people in the company, Keith Lee was the free agent that it was imperative that they pick up.
I feel that I said that as well.
That's exactly where you said. That's where I get my news from, is the man they call Meathead.
I believe I led with that, going Keith Lee is somebody AEW must sign, because Keith Lee will have a rocket strapped to his back, and that dude, by the end of this year, could be the AEW heavyweight champion.
Oh, without a doubt. And I mean, I'll go on a limb now to say I think that's probably who, I don't know if we have an interim person take it off a page and then we get to Keith Lee, but I mean, I think that needs to be your next AEW champion.
Okay. All right, well, let's talk AEW Dynamite from last night. The show started off not as we had predicted, but it started off with this. Actually, it popped me a little bit. It was kind of funny. It started off with Wardlow dragging two MJF cutouts down the ring with no music, no nothing, and having them set those props up in the ring and hand the dapper yapper, Justin Roberts, a sheet to introduce FTR with Tully Blanchard, Shawn Spears, and MJF.
Little subtle thing. Did you notice the camera cut that went to the side of the ramp when Wardlow was walking in with the cardboard cutouts? A camera angle you normally don't see in AEW. I thought that was really cool. AEW doing something abnormal last night, and I'm just pulling this out of thin air, but I would imagine I could probably count on one hand the amount of times we've seen any AEW property open up with a promo. And I liked it last night. I mean, it's not what they're known for.
They're known for popping off right away with a match and intro music.
It's more of WWE style booking, but I mean, AEW is in the big leagues, and AEW might very well be the big league right now. And when you think about, very, very big Raws or Nitros, a lot of times, there is some very big deal promo to start the show, and we got it last night. And here's the cool thing too. How long has it been since we've seen Pinnacle fully assembled? We don't see that much.
No, we haven't, but they were always there. And that's the difference right there. Mm-hmm. If this were WWE, and this isn't a slam WWE show here, but if this were WWE, that group would have been forced on your throat consistently week after week after week.
Yeah. And I mean,
it would have been multiple segments throughout the night too.
You go back to in 80s NWA style booking with the Horsemen, where you don't necessarily need to see them out all by their lonesome. Right. I mean, all by their whatever the opposite of lonesome. You always don't need to see them out in tandem, and that's a resource.
Well, let's stop at the word tan. because now let's go to CM Punk's insult of his spray tan.
Yeah, and that's the. I mean, I've been saying for a long time. I think that's done intentionally. I think MJF, kind of maybe skimps on the spray tan services. Maybe he doesn't go out of his way to go to the premium spray tanner because that's part of his, heel character.
What, that he's like a different kind of orange?
Yeah, that you just don't like that spray tan. I'm sure MJF, with his resources and Tony Khan's resources, you could get the good dude a good-looking spray tan if you wanted to. They just choose not to.
I think they literally walk into the booth, stand there, and get just a coat put on a half hour before a show, and then they get.
Speaking of which, have you got your spray tan booked for WrestleMania week?
No, I plan on getting burnt in the Texas sun.
Or you know what? Maybe there's no need for professional services. Maybe you and I can get a Groupon or something on like the materials, and we just tan each other.
No, no. All right, let's talk about what this segment was before everybody starts losing their breakfast this morning. This segment was about his friends Sting and Darby Allin coming out. I thought, as I'm staring at these competitors, there's 5 and there's 3. Mm-hmm. 5 and 3 makes 8. Yeah. Could we get a 4-on-4 8-person tag? Would Wardlow tagging with Punk, Sting, and Darby?
Yeah, and I mean, here's the thing too. Prior to going to that, you've got FTR in a much more prominent role. I mean, they're normally not in main tier promos, and especially opening up the show. I'm thinking a step further. I'm like, is this going to be where we get the Briscoes? Was not.
Reach for the sky, boy.
But it got me. It got me thinking, and it reminded me just how well put together a total package FTR is.
No, FTR are great wrestlers. I don't like how Tony yesterday morning during his bi-weekly interview interview before Dynamite did not address the fact that Jay Briscoe said, "Man, shit, get off the pot, man. Yeah, what are we doing here?" That FTR Briscoe's match has to happen. Yeah. And Tony would be leaving money on the table if he didn't put that on in AEW.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, what are we? A month removed from their pay-per-view. Again, another thing that I like what AEW does with this weekly television. We had pay-per-view caliber matches last night, and I get WWE typically, books 2 or 3 to 4 week pay-per-view cycle. But here's the thing. We are several months since the last AEW pay-per-view. November, correct, was the last AEW pay-per-view.
Yeah, it was full gear.
And, it's looking like we're going looks like we're going Page and oh my goodness.
Well, we'll get there. We're going to talk about it at the end.
Yeah, of the show here. But it's not, everything's not laid out for us right now. We don't have weeks of TV in a holding pattern. We're
on the road to Revolution. We definitely are.
All we know, FTR and Briscoes can happen at the pay-per-view. I mean, the way that, they move stuff forward and actually move the needle along. I'm not going to say that doesn't happen at the pay-per-view because that will be the last AEW pay-per-view before ROH starts running shows again.
Okay. Well, there we are. But what ended up happening at the end of this promo is that Punk was told that if he can get a partner and not Sting or Darby to meet him and take on FTR and beat FTR, then he'll get his rematch anytime, any place. It's funny because, Punk kept laying in saying, "Hey, big man, MJF doesn't think he needed your help. MJF doesn't trust you." I mean, Punk's laying in those shots, not MJF or even Wardlow. So Andrade El Idolo backstage with Sting and Darby. This thing is weird and it needs to stop.
Yeah, and I mean, you've got a superstar in Andrade, and it's just they've not found their stride with how to utilize it.
No, it's weird, and it's got to stop. Wardlow comes back out, and he's got a match, and he's going to beat the Blade by pinfall. Sean Spears attacked the Blade after the match, and boy, oh boy, we talk about things right in front of our face. Is the Blade a heel or a face?
The Blade, he's
a heel.
He's a heel, especially with associating with Hardy's stable.
He's a heel. So what would that make Wardlow?
it's a very interesting storyline. Wardlow is a babyface in a
Wardrobes?
heel stable.
Wardrobes? Is that what you said? Yes.
Yeah.
That's my whole point.
Wardrobe.
Wardlow is a face.
Mhm.
And Wardlow will become a face once he leaves the Pinnacle.
And I mean, here's the interesting thing with Wardlow. If you've noticed, yeah, he comes out, flanked by Shawn Spears, but the Wardlow interactions when he wrestles, he's there with Shawn Spears as his foil, but the Pinnacle, the rest of Pinnacle's not there. They separate Wardlow from the stable. It's a very, very interesting
Shawn
story
Spears
that they're telling
represents the stable, and he represents MJF because he's the accountability buddy.
Yeah.
All right. So Shawn Spears is there representing MJF to make sure Wardlow does the bad things, but he's a good wrestler.
Right, right.
So that's, let me spell that out for you.
Yeah, they're doing a great job with the Wardlow booking. And I mean, you have got a guy that you have got the audience clamoring for a babyface turn.
Yeah. All right, video package with Penta El Zero Miedo in the graveyard digging up a mask. He explained that this is due to the mist he got last week. The promo repeatedly calling out Malachi Black. Is there something new coming out for Penta? Who knows? But Inner Circle time. Jericho, Hager, and Sammy Guevara come to the ring for the Inner Circle's team meeting. But here comes Santana Ortiz on their own with their own music, not wearing their cuts. They almost go to blows when Jericho's, maybe I asked the wrong two members at LAX. Anybody know Homicide and Hernandez's numbers? Oh, that was yeek.
Yeah, I like the story they're telling here. And I mean, it seemed to be a much more Santana and Ortiz oriented crowd. I think they're ready for that them to dissolve, and I think a lot of people are probably ready for Jericho to walk more kind of a heel line.
Okay. Roppongi Vice backstage, Trent Beretta and Rocky Romero interrupted by the Young Bucks, and like I said, New Japan Pro Wrestling star Jay White, the leader of the Bullet Club, sends Beretta face first into the production truck, nods at Cole and the Bucks, says Matt Jackson has nice earrings, then walks off.
They've been using the Bucks a lot more sparingly in recent weeks, and I think they're
covering an injury. Honestly.
Yeah, I think they are, but I think that's aiding the product as well too. I think the Bucks, people are starting to get tired of the gimmick, and this version of the Bucks, I don't mind seeing them in action on Friday because I think it'll be a good match, and I think it'll be, they haven't been overutilized, but the version of the Bucks we were getting each week, especially with Omega, I think that was
too much.
They were starting to get a lot of that go away heat.
Yeah. So Isaiah Cassidy is facing somebody in the Face of the Revolution ladder match qualifier. Bask in his glory and say his name, Keith Lee. And you know what? Keith Lee came out to that cocky Keith Lee look. Yeah. He looked good. He looked great. And the only kind of thing that bugged me a little bit, and it happened outside of the ring, so it's not as bad, but they took him off his feet.
Yeah. One thing that stood out to me was the typical, Keith Lee chant that you heard throughout NXT that you did not hear.
The song?
The song. The crowd singing the song. You got it in NXT crowds.
Bask in his glory.
You took him up to the main roster. You didn't get it with the audience in the main roster. If you did, at least not significantly.
And it was drowned out on purpose.
Yep. You immediately have it in AEW. So basically, you have almost this really, to me, felt like
his call up to the main roster.
Yes. The main roster premiere. And notice the crowd engagement, not just the initial pop, but the crowd engagement throughout the whole match, throughout the move set. Yep. Keith Lee came off as a star last night.
Okay. Well, there we are. Keith Lee is all elite, and Keith Lee will be in the Face of the Revolution ladder match at Revolution in March. The winner of that match gets a TBS title match against Sammy Guevara.
Yeah. Again, I'm not a huge fan of the big donut they pulled down. I wish they would get something a little more donut. Cooler looking than that. But yeah,
it's like a. It looks like Smart Hulk's hemorrhoid donut. Is what it looks like.
Yeah. But here's the thing: I'm already interested in this match, not just because Keith Lee's in it, but because somebody the build and the size of Keith Lee is in a ladder match. That's not your normal, stature of a ladder match person. Now, Keith Lee got some high flying abilities, but I like ladder matches where it's not 6 or 7 cruiserweights. I like it with a little bit more diversity in size, and you have that off the bat immediately, with Keith Lee, and then I think you'll get a little change up too when you ultimately have Jeff Hardy in the ladder match too.
Possibly. Yep. AEW TNT champion Sammy Guevara cut his promo during the mid-commercial with his cards and that he's going to be ready for the winner. Well, CM Punk found a tag team partner, and it was John Moxley defeating FTR. Moxley revealed to be Punk's partner for the long but very good tag team match. There was a couple weird spots in there. I thought they were kind of weird where it's they teased, Punk hit Moxley or Moxley hit Punk or whatever. They tried to do simultaneous finishers together and then got that at the end. Like they meant to do it, but then it was I don't know. It seemed like it went a little long. I enjoyed the match throughout though.
It went longer than I was expecting, but I think what they really were going for here was trying to put across, a pay-per-view quality tag match. The fact that you had Punk and Moxley tagging, I think they really wanted to, to try to deliver something special. And again, you had a long match. I mean, they ended up going over, but FTR looked very, very formidable. And I want to say the same thing for the Keith Lee match. That went a lot longer than I thought it was going to go. It was not your squash match, but I think AEW really made an effort last night to, even though you thought it was a foregone conclusion, not necessarily, cast a little bit of a shadow of a doubt for some of these matches. And I think they delivered with that.
AEW TBS champion Jade Cargill retains over AQA, who was formerly known as NXT's Zeta Rainier, trained by Booker T. When she tried to hit that second shooting star press, she slipped and was smart enough to pull herself off the top rope.
Again, this went longer than I thought it would. And, I think they told a good story. Sometimes the Jade matches can be hit or miss at this point in her career, but it filled the purpose in telling an effective story for a title retention.
Serena Deeb had a 5-minute rookie challenge. I honestly thought they were setting us up for somebody to debut on her as well, but then we see her challenger in the ring. So Serena Deeb, and they didn't know how to work the clock. Did you see them show the clock and it was already at 4 minutes and 52 seconds and then the bell rang and they put it back to 5?
Oh my goodness. Hey, though, it's TBS, TNT, man. They should have some experience with NBA games and shot clocks and that type of stuff.
Right, exactly. No, Serena Deeb won in exactly 60 seconds. And she was taunting half of the match.
This was there to make Serena Deeb look strong. And I think that we're starting to get a little bit more of that build with her.
All right, main event. Hangman Adam Page, Lance Archer in a Texas death match. No entrances for either because they were brawling in the back right away. You know what? That was great. You guys know my opinion personally on extra blood, extra color. I don't like it. I don't like unnecessary spots that are extra hardcore for the sake of being hardcore. However, I like the move of taking away the top rope after he hit his first buckshot lariat because then he couldn't do it again. Adam Page wins.
As far as matches that, and I mean, what I'm finding, and I'm finding it more and more with AEW, because this really has not been a relevant part of our discussion the whole time you and I have been doing this show. You would have occasionally Impact, TNA at the time, cross the line a little bit, with some color, but these are not discussions we're having on a regular basis. We're having them much more regularly with where AEW goes. And as I see more and more, I realize, at least to me personally, how thin of a line it really is between too much and enough for added effect. I thought the opening was fine. Archer getting color right at the start from going through the glass. I mean, it was
stabbing Page and then licking the blood.
Yeah. That's too much for me. I mean, Page's color was significantly. So I started to get a little bit more uneasy as the match progressed, initially with the amount of color that Page had. Then once we got to it, to me, anytime you are puncturing or basically alluding to puncturing. I mean, because let's face it, the whole spot with the fork, one guy is stabbing the other guy. Okay,
As long as he didn't go for his eye.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We had that in WWE. Let's not
That's
forget
what I'm
that.
saying. He didn't go for his eye and then make him wear a fake eye patch.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, man, when you're getting to a guy dining on another person's blood, you're really, really going to a level that most of your viewing audience is probably the amount of people that you risk turning off versus the amount of people that's like, oh yeah, I love it when somebody takes a fork and eats the other guy's blood. I think that's far and few between, and that's the type of a bloodthirst that's never going to be really satisfied.
It's never going to be mainstream, to be completely honest.
No. And then, that's one thing. Dangerous spots are another thing. And that spot on the chair was concerning. Thankfully,
not the chair so much. I was more concerned about the
stairs. The stairs. That's what I meant to say. The spot on the stairs. And thankfully, everybody was all right. And so when you come away from it, I mean, even going back and watching it, I don't know that I can separate it and say, okay, knowing that everybody was okay, that was a cool spot. No, because I see the danger and I see the fraction of an inch where that could have gone off and you could have ended somebody's career and highly jeopardized their livelihood and
their health.
In their health. And the fact that, AEW, a lot of people would say is heads and tails above their competition right now. Those are not calculated risks that are needed. Those are unneeded risks, in my personal opinion.
It's a risk that I wish I could have seen. Jake the Snake tried to call for the DDT, and Archie goes, "What the hell are you doing?" He goes, "I just wanted to do it." And then Paige went around and hit the DDT on him and flipped him off.
Overall, but here's the thing. With all of the gory matches that AEW will do sometimes, last night, this one held my interest the most and had the most psychology that I've seen in any of their Bloodfest. So coming away from it, I enjoyed the match. Was it a little bit too much for my personal taste? Yes. But I think they told the story they were trying to tell. And honestly, when you announce it as a Texas death match, I think they felt like this was what they had to deliver. Would me personally have been more invested in just a straight ahead match with these two, with maybe a little bit of color, most likely.
No DQ match or a false count anywhere match.
Yeah. But this was the product that we got, and I guess just to put a bow on it, I get a little concerned when I see this from AEW because I think this potentially can take them backwards. They will, they cross that line to late 90s ECW occasionally. And like you said, moves like this, I feel like take them less and less mainstream and are unneeded as far as what moves the needle as that company and trying to be the top company in the country.
Lastly, after the match was over, Adam Page stood there, and Adam Cole, baby, came out to the ring, grabbed the title, stared at it, slapped it back on Hangman. Technically, unofficially, Adam Cole, now the number one contender.
So what you're saying is we've got Adam versus Adam.
Right. As long as it's not Page and Cage and Cage and Page in a cage with Page as you never know.
See, that's what but it's starting to throw me off because when I referenced it earlier in the show, I froze a little bit because my brain knew there were two Adams and I was trying to think of Cole's last name, if it was a Page or a Cage, and it's not a Page or a Cage, but it's another Adam.
Well, Adam and Eve, Adam and Adam. I mean, whatever book you're reading.
Adam 12, wasn't that that was a show, right?
Adam 12 was a police show.
Now we just need 10 more Adams.
Ugh. Well, I mean, is Adam Cole or is Adam Page your Adam to watch in 2022?
Oh my goodness! I mean, they're both. Maybe I'll have two. Maybe I'll have two Adams to watch in 2022.
All right. Well, 7 Mary 3, Matthew, we are out of here. Tomorrow we are going to talk about Rampage. We're going to talk about SmackDown as well. It looks as if Ronda Rousey has chosen Charlotte instead of Rebecca. And we'll be making our way towards the big Elimination Chamber halfway around the world. So for the Matthew Thomas to watch in 2022, I'm the man they call Meathead. Thanks for stopping by. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning. So long, everyone.